Hello and welcome to Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and we are going to be talking about a case that immediately just had me fascinated because it's just not something that you see maybe ever. I can't recall any situation like this. And today we're going to be digging into the case of the people of the state of Kentucky versus Shawn Stines, also known as Mickey Stines, who was the elected sheriff uh, for, I think it's Lechter County. Could be mispronouncing that. Or Lechter. If somebody knows in the chat, let me know. But at any rate, how the story kind of goes is that September 19th of this year, sounds like there was some kind of lunch that had happened with a few people aside from Stines and Judge Kevin Mullins, and that this group was there having lunch. At some point, Stines and Mullins made it back to the courthouse. They go up into the judge's chambers. There is some kind of conversation that ensues, and shortly thereafter, I mean, Stines takes out his weapon. I don't know if it's his service revolver or not, or his service weapon, but he then proceeds to shoot the judge multiple times, killing him. He was just in front of the judge yesterday for his probable cause hearing, which is what we're going to look at today. I think that it's pretty interesting. So this is actually my son's fire department. It's not a football team or some kind of team, unless it's Team Mata for my son, who's a hero, lifesaver, firefighter, first responder. He's all those things. So yeah, I'm anxious to watch this again. I've already watched it. Allie and I watched it earlier. Unfortunately, Allie can't join me right now, but I'll man the ship. I will man the ship with y'all. I got Missy back here with me, who I adore. Thank you for hanging with me backstage, Missy. I appreciate you. So I think what I'm looking for here is some answers. I think the thing that really kind of grabbed my attention from this case was why? Like, what would possess this guy to do that in that situation where there's 0% chance that he's getting away with it? You know, it's something that happened. It seemed to be in the heat of the moment, but and we'll watch the video. There's been various versions out. They have it in during the hearing here as well. It's kind of a bad angle, but you can make out what's happening. I tried to cut it and make it so it's a little more visible. I'll let you all be the judge of that. It definitely wasn't phenomenal work by me by any stretch, but I've seen a lot of videos out there of this particular courtroom or the chambers video that's like they're cutting things out. So I wanted to try to get what they showed in court, which is a shorter version than it exists. And it was something that you'll see is brought up towards the end of this hearing. I think it's a very interesting hearing. I think it gives us some insight as to what may be going on here, and this could be a nasty one. Like, I've got this sense that there's something there's a lot of speculation out there. I don't know that I'm going to be ready to go full bore on it, but I mean, I'm going to definitely, like I always try to do, take the wait and see approach. Wait till we hear what the evidence is and see if that makes its way to us prior to trial. But I think this is going to be a very, very interesting case to follow. So, without further ado, why don't we check out the hearing? If you've already seen it, uh, watch it again. It's pretty interesting. I've already watched it, and I'm anxious to watch it again. So let's check out and see what's going on here. Okay. All right. Let's get that full screen. All right. I got to figure out a way to block this dude here. I might have to put me and Allie up. That's always a good block. Missy, try the one with the border with Allie and I. That's a good blocker. Even though she's not with me, she's always here with me in spirit. She's always right here in the heart. There you go, my girl. Good job, Missy. All right, you guys. You guys ready? I think I got it queued up. So that's Stines right there. And just so you guys know, I'll probably stop it. If you guys have any questions along the way, please, like, put it in the chat. Say, hey, you know what? I want you to answer this question. I'll be looking. I'm here for it. I want to answer questions for y'all. And just remember, this is a probable cause hearing. That's what we're going to be watching today. It's essentially, we call them preliminary hearings. Essentially, what has to be shown is that there's probable cause enough to bind this gentleman, Mickey Stines, over for trial based on the evidence that'll be presented today. And obviously, you've got a video of him shooting a judge. It seems to be either 3 or 4 times. He was getting bound over. There was no chance he wasn't getting bound over. Where it gets interesting is some of the defense argument towards the end about whether or not murder was the proper charge or manslaughter. So let's check it out. Let's check it out. Like I said, if you got questions, raise your hands. I'll pause it and we'll talk about it. Looks like we need a little bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. All right, I think the judge is coming in. Excuse. All right. Oh, there's shit. Sorry. All right, let's see here. So no sound. Okay. Wow. All right. Hold on. Why is this? Hold on. Let me figure this shit out. Oh, it's weird. It's not saying it's muted. My sound's working, right, y'all? Like, I don't know why this sound's not working. Hmm. All right, I think it's hold on. I think it's definitely a StreamYard issue. Okay. All right. You can hear me, right? Okay. Let me see. Let me try to pull it up again. Share screen. Chrome tab. Okay. Boop boop. All right. See if this works. I'm gonna rewind it. Obviously, if you guys didn't hear the sound. Okay. Hopefully this works. All right. Give me a thumbs up if the sound's on.
I'm going to call the case of Commonwealth versus Shawn Stines, 24F 147, on for preliminary hearing. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Yes, sir.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, call your first witness.
Commonwealth's Clayton Stanford.
All right, Mr. Stamper, if you would. Raise your right hand for me. You swear affirm the testimony you're
Thanks,
about to
guys.
give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
I'm going to tell you right now, aside from my incompetence, but that was actually StreamYard. That wasn't me. Like sometimes it's glitchy like that. The sound and the camera work on point in this hearing. Like this is how every courtroom should be. The sound is great. You can hear the witnesses. You can hear the lawyers. This is how they should all be. And it's in Kentucky. Go figure.
You state your name correctly,
Clayton Stanford,
and how you spell your name?
ClaytonStamper.
Tell the court how you're employed.
I'm sorry.
How are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Kentucky State Police assigned to Post 13 Hazard.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been with KSP a little over 24 years, detective since 2006.
And have you, in the performance of your duties as detective with the police, have you investigated the death of Kevin Mullins?
Yes, sir, I did.
And can you tell us on what date that was?
It was September 19th, 2024.
In investigation of that death, were you able to determine who killed Kevin Mullins?
Yes.
And how were you able to do that?
Video surveillance footage.
And did you retrieve that video surveillance footage?
I did.
At this time, the company moved to play video footage.
All right.
All right, I'm going to object. Approach.
Yes, approach the bench.
Okay. We'll bloop bloop a little bit here. Now that was kind of an interesting part. Like this will rear its ugly head for the defense towards the end of this hearing. What we're going to see, what they're going to show, is the video that we've all heard so much about. Many of us have seen it, which is the tragic shooting of this judge by Stines. And it's a truncated video. You'll see that they've blurred out the judge's face. And obviously it looks to be about maybe 20 seconds long. So there's obviously things that preceded this, as we'll hear about them, namely the yeah, thank you there, Afton. Let's throw that up there. Trigger warning. You don't see any gore, but you get the magnitude of what's going on here. It's graphic in an ungraphic way, is one way to put it. But kind of what's going to go on here is the defense didn't object to this truncated version of the video being put on, which you'll see when we get to the end of the hearing becomes an issue. He should have objected there and said, I want the full video on, but he didn't. So we're going to get what we get. Oh, it's light time. It's really bloop, 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 bloop.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, my only criticism of this, basically this entire hearing was, I mean, you can see it. So here, I want to kind of slow frame this. Okay, so I can't tell if he's fired the weapon there. It looks like he did. With you can tell that his hand. Does that look like he fired 2 shots right there? Fires the 3rd shot, and then I think he fires 1 more shot right here. Wow. Ah.
Okay, is that a portion of the video?
Yeah, hearing them cry is heartbreaking.
Can you ever
It's heartbreaking, obviously. I'm assuming that's his wife, the judge's wife. Probably one of his daughters, but that's a guess. I mean, a couple of things that I note from the video is that Stines looks very calm. He looks very calm. And like, as we hear through the testimony of this cop who doesn't know a lot for the lead investigator at this point, or at least he's not willing on the stand in a probable cause hearing to give everything that he knows at this point because it's such a low burden. And because the video speaks for itself, like this was, in terms of a preliminary hearing or probable cause hearing, was a slam dunk. I mean, you've got direct evidence that he shot him. Like, this is when you talk about direct evidence, this is exactly what you're talking about. Like, this is the best evidence that you can get, short of somebody coming in and saying it's a AI deep fake of him shooting the judge. It's stone cold. So this case is going to boil down to the motive, which never has to be proven. However, in a case like this, the motive in terms of what set him off, what drove him to do this, because I was admittedly creeping through both I'm talking about Stein's Facebook page, which is still up, his wife's Facebook page, which is still up, his daughter Lila's Facebook page, which is still up, but doesn't have much on it. Just to kind of try to get a sense of this family. And I have to say, they look like a loving, real tight-knit family. I mean, there's a cute video of him doing like a lip sync challenge with one of the girls, one of his daughters. Looks like she's in the back of the squad and he's in the front, and it's about a minute-long video. I have it. I'll play it after this, because I'm trying to understand, what could have possibly have happened. I mean, I know what would drive me personally, potentially, to do something like this. And that's obviously where my mind goes right away. And then we'll discuss it as this thing progresses. You're going to start hearing things. And if you don't know anything about this case, don't start Googling yet. Wait until after we're done. If you do know, let's talk about it. I really want to talk about this case. So let's keep going. But I like, the one thing that I want to point out in the video, he seems calm, cool, and collected, in the sense that, like, if he was in a kind of in a maniacal type of state where he's just like lost his mind, the one portion, let me bloop it back just a little bit. So if he was, watch how he goes around the chair and slides the chair forward. That, to me, goes directly to how calm he is in that moment. Like, you would figure in a moment where you're kind of outside of yourself, you'd just be flinging that chair out of the way. So I thought that was interesting. Right. The crying's really, oh, the crying's so hard.
And were you able to identify the party that we saw in that video?
That was Sheriff Mickey Stines and Judge Kevin Mullins.
And also, who had the firearm?
Sheriff Stines.
And then Judge was also in his black robe.
Yes.
Do you know what portion of the courthouse that is?
That is the judge's chambers
And where's that located at, physically located?
in the Lechter County Courthouse.
That's all I have, you on.
Would you like to cross-examine the witness?
I would, Your Honor.
All right. So as you can see, the state, as I said, the thing speaks for itself. That's the best evidence you can get. Direct evidence of the shooting. It's clear who the culprit is. It's clear who the victim is. It's clear what happened. He doesn't need to put anything else on. Like in terms of that low burden of probable cause to bind this thing over for trial, that video certainly does it. So now the defense, and like I've said, I always, if I have the opportunity to do a preliminary hearing, Allison and I would always do it. Like we would never waive preliminary hearing because you get an opportunity to be able to cross-examine a cop way ahead of the game. So this is going to be the first chance for this defense attorney to be able to ask this cop some questions who turns out to be the lead investigator. So like, I always think it's good practice for the defense never to waive preliminary hearing, put him to the test, see if you can get some information from him. Plus it's sworn testimony. So at that point, things that he says now, if at trial things change, and he said things that were inaccurate during this hearing, he can be, impeached at trial by using the testimony from this hearing. So the defense attorney goes for quite a bit. So let's hear what he has to say.
It's a short clip that was played there. How long do you believe that clip was?
That we just watched.
Yes, sir.
Just 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
10, 15 seconds. In fact, the video that was taken in the judge's chambers between the meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins, it's my understanding that video lasted much longer, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the video
I have.
of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Stines uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
All right. Now that right there is where it gets super interesting. So if you didn't hear it, if you were typing and weren't paying attention, essentially what this cop just testified to is that what preceded what we just saw was a period of time where Stines is on his phone making phone calls and then picks up the judge's phone and then makes a phone call from the judge's phone. Now we're going to find out who that phone call is to in the very near future, but that just raises a million questions in my mind. I'm assuming that the judge has a passcode. I like, did he force the judge to open his phone up so that he could access his contacts to make a call? I mean, there's like, it raises a lot of questions, and this is where this case gets way more interesting in terms of what was going on beneath the surface here. There is something that is happening that can put your mind in a million different directions. I know where mine's at. But it's a big conclusion that I'm jumping to. So let's listen.
Okay. So it's my understanding there were some people who were having a meeting with Judge Mullins prior to the sheriff's entry into the chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you identified those witnesses?
I don't know the names of them. There's about approximately 4 people in there. Then Sheriff Stines enters the judge's chambers, and everybody else clears out.
You don't know their names?
Not right off, no.
Have you prepared a report that
In
might,
the process, yes.
you're in the process of preparing a report,
Yes, a lot of information.
but you've not spoken to any of those witnesses?
I'm not directly, but they've all been interviewed. There's recorded interviews of those people in the case.
Okay, so other officers have spoken with those 4 witnesses?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of what those 4 witnesses have said?
I don't recall.
You have no idea what they said?
No.
I want to make sure I understand, had there been a hearing previously this day in chambers?
In the courtroom?
No, in chambers.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so there's a video camera that is running in the district judge's chambers. Is that on all the time?
It's my understanding, yes.
Have you spoken with anyone about why that may be?
No. I mean, there's cameras throughout the courthouse.
Well, fair enough, but are you familiar with district judges' chambers normally, how they're set up?
No. I mean, some of them have video surveillance and some don't.
Right, but
This one does.
generally when they have surveillance, you agree with me that that is utilized when there is a proceeding going on in chambers, correct?
It could be, yes.
Okay. And I mean, I'm just asking, so this video didn't have an audio recording to it, correct?
There's no audio.
Outside of once the 4 people that were inside that we don't know their names, once these 4 people had left the chambers, were they in an area adjacent where they could hear anything that was going on?
Yes, I believe some of them did remain in the next room.
Okay. And
I could just tell you that modern courthouses have cameras all over the place. They have them obviously in the hallways. They have them in the courtrooms. Most of them will have them in chambers. They have them all over. I don't find it unusual at all that they had cameras in his chambers. And Stines is a cop. He's a sheriff. Like he didn't care. I mean, that's the thing about this. This is like, there's a very strong manslaughter argument here because it's a heat of the moment thing, obviously. And I think that as we go through this, when you hear kind of at the end of it, the defense's argument as to why murder might be putting, the cart before the horse a little bit here, because the way that they framed it by using only that 15 seconds of video is we don't see anything that precedes it, which could have been the moment where emotions rose to where it drove this man to pull out his weapon and shoot and kill this judge. But like I said, he didn't object to them putting that into evidence. He should have made the objection at that point in time when they were up at the bench, when it was no sound for us, prior to playing the video. And that was when the state was saying, we're going to put this video on. If he knew that it was the shortened version, the truncated version, he should have objected and said, I want the full version put out, because it's stronger for his case in terms of saying, look, murder's not the one here. Like, man, this is manslaughter. Like, this guy just found out something. We all have to kind of let our minds race again in terms of what he may have found out, but it certainly has something to do with his daughter.
what did they tell us?
Do what?
What did they hear?
I've not been part. I wasn't part of those interviews.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're prepared for a preliminary hearing on a murder, and there are witnesses in an adjacent room.
I mean, they heard
Can I put
gunshots.
my question, please?
Let the plaintiff ask the question.
Thank you, officer. So you are investigating a murder and testifying in a preliminary hearing, and there are witnesses who may have overheard what preceded this edited clip. Yet you can't tell us today anything that they said?
I've not personally listened to those interviews. I've talked to the other officers that did those interviews.
Fair enough. And I mean, we're here at a preliminary hearing, as you know, that you can testify to hearsay. I'm asking you what they said.
They heard gunshots.
Okay. Was there any statements that they overheard?
No.
Were there raised voices?
One person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullins' voice, but heard somebody say, "Help, help."
Presumably that will be after the firearm was drawn or shot.
And I just want to restate that Allie and I have told you guys many, many times that during preliminary hearings, that the rules of evidence are relaxed, wherein you can bring in hearsay evidence. So had this officer heard anything from these people that were in the chambers, thank you, that were in the chambers prior to Stines coming in, who apparently left chambers but were still sitting in the courtroom, had they been sitting there and overheard what was being said between the sheriff and the judge, he could testify to it. Now he's testifying that all he heard was, that one of the people said they heard somebody maybe saying or yelling, "Help, help, help," but heard no other conversation.
I withdraw, Judge.
Withdraw.
Oh, so is there any testimony that you can give us today about any statements or arguments or the content of that argument prior to the shooting?
No.
Okay. I want to ask generally, so did you process the scene? Are you the lead investigator on this case?
I am.
Okay, so as a lead investigator, I would presume that you would have secured the chambers and evidence once you arrived.
I was part of that, yes.
You were part of it, right? But you're the lead investigator, so you'd be in charge of those duties and delegating what should be done. Is that
No.
fair?
No, I don't delegate what's done.
Okay, so you're the lead investigator. What does that mean?
I'm the case officer.
Okay, so you're carrying the case. So I want to make sure I understand. Had Judge Mullins been removed from chambers when you arrived?
No,
Were you able to ascertain, did he have a firearm on his person?
we did not locate one.
You did not locate one?
No, there's not one in the chambers.
Okay. And there was none on his person?
No.
Okay. All right. Who was the first person to arrive on behalf of law enforcement to investigate?
They were already in the courthouse.
Fair enough, but I'm talking about in terms of people that we may see a report from or take part in this investigation. Who would be the first person?
I believe Trooper Jason Bates was the first KSP personnel on scene.
And you spoke with him and
I did.
he searched and did not locate a firearm?
No, he didn't search the scene. No.
His
His role at that point was security of the scene.
I understand, but I'm just trying to ascertain, you said earlier that there was no firearm found. I'm
No,
wanting to know, can you tell us, was it specifically searched for a firearm?
in the judge's chambers,
Yes, sir.
there was myself, Detective Chris Collins, Detective Scott Caldwell, Detective Eric Caldwell. That's all I recall right now.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand, so who searched specifically for a firearm?
We all did.
And that was specifically something you looked for?
Yes.
Fair enough, okay. Of course, your investigation, did you ascertain that prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins?
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Sorry, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
Okay. And It's my understanding there were a couple of other people who attended the luncheon.
There were several, yes.
Okay. And at some point after that, they wrapped up lunch and left, obviously, and went back to the courthouse. Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge
No,
Mullins and Sheriff Stines?
no,
That someone on behalf of the KSB has spoken to those witnesses?
yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of
I do not.
what the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
So it's my understanding that in the larger portion of the video that we haven't had access to, that there is a point when Sheriff Stines asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I would presume that you and the other officers you mentioned, when you secured the scene, that you secured those phones as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed both of those phones?
They're currently at the forensic lab at this time being downloaded. I have had discussions with the people at the lab regarding the downloads.
And those are a couple of other questions that I was going to ask you, but my original question was, have you reviewed or are you aware of the content of the phones?
I've not personally seen it because I've not received those reports yet.
Okay, again, based upon your conversations with the officers, are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So, have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins' phone?
I don't have those in my possession.
Now, the two women that you can see behind his, what would be his right ear, that's his wife, and his older of the two teenage daughters are in court. So now the question, he's got two teenage daughters. As I said, I did go creeping around on his Facebook page, and I saw that last year, the brunette here, I don't necessarily want to say her name. I think I already said it once, but I slipped. Got her driver's license last year in the summer around June, and which puts her at 16 years old. And they have another daughter who's also teenage, her sister. Which daughter we're talking about here, I don't know. I do know from, again, digging around that the daughter pictured there, and we'll see her a lot during this hearing, that she attended I don't know if it was like some kind of education camp or something at I think it was Morehead State University or Morehouse, one of the two. I'll double check. But during the summer, I was like, oh, wait, is she in college? And it sounded like it was a summer program that she attended there. And it sounds like she's wanting to get into nursing. So that's kind of where we're at. Like, I don't know which daughter we're talking about here. Now, I saw that Astro from Space is saying that the sheriff's judge was always in the judge's chambers, or the sheriff's daughter was always in the chambers. Do you know any more? Yeah, Morehead in Kentucky. Thank you, Tippy. All right, let's continue to listen. As you can see, it's got to be a little bit frustrating for the defense counsel. Lead prosecutor doesn't seem to be very forthcoming in terms of what he's heard. There obviously had to be conversations, but then again, this is a situation where we have direct evidence. This isn't circumstantial evidence. This is a perfect example of the difference between circumstantial evidence and direct evidence. This video of him committing the crime is direct evidence of the commission of the crime. But, beyond that, maybe they felt like they didn't need to really dig in as much. Now, once this case starts really percolating and the defense is going like from what I gather, from what I hear, because he shot and killed a judge, he is death penalty eligible. Okay. So there's going to be quite a fight here to save this guy's life. And they're going to be bringing out whatever the impetus of this was, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I'm dying to know what it is.
Yeah, no.
Okay, have you issued a search
Yeah,
warrant for
yeah,
him?
yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so,
So
yes.
that number had been called from Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't have a viewing of what transpired during that exchange of phones. But based upon your review of those moments prior to, when Sheriff Stines observes that cell phone, was he previously seated?
Yes.
Okay, so in the clip we saw, he was standing the entire time.
He was seated in front of the judge's desk.
And he looks at the cell phone. What is it? Can you describe his reaction in the video that we haven't seen?
Whose reaction?
Well, the sheriff.
You can't see his face in the video.
Okay. But is it clear that, does it appear to you that, let me rephrase this. Did he stand up after
Yes.
looking at the phone?
He stood up.
And how long after he looked at the cell phone and stood up did this occur that you played?
Just seconds.
Did you make the decision as on edits today for what you were going to present? In terms of, did you make the edit or determine
No,
which portion of the video we were going to see today?
no, sir, I did not.
Both cell phones have been sent to the Kentucky State Police forensic
Yes.
team, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you gotten any early report on what was found?
No.
Were both phones still on the desk when you arrived?
The judge's phone was on the desk. Sheriff Stein's phone was on his person.
Okay, so are there photographs of, was the phone locked at that point or was it still open?
With both of you asking about both of them, or?
Well, first let's talk about, that's fair. First, I'm talking about Judge Mullins, since it was the one that was still on the desk and presumably nobody touched it prior to you securing it, correct?
No.
So, yeah, so would like to know about that. Have you ascertained what was currently open on that cell phone?
No, I don't know at this point. No.
You don't know.
No.
Do you think that would be, important to learn?
I hope to learn that when the report's ready. Yes.
But as of today, you can't tell us
No.
what was currently open on the judge's phone.
No, sir.
Did you conduct an interview with Sheriff Stein's daughter?
I did not, but she has been interviewed.
Are you aware of who was present when she was interviewed?
Lieutenant Randy Combs and Detective Anthony Trotter.
And she was interviewed with or without her parent?
With.
So her parent was present at the time you interviewed her?
Yes, I believe. I wasn't there, but yes, I think so.
Law enforcement has not spoken to her without her parent present.
Not that I'm.
Did the Kentucky State Police obtain her phone?
No.
you intend to obtain records for her cell phone number?
Possibly, yes.
Do you believe that that will be soon that you'll do that?
Could be, yes.
Had you already intended to do that, or did you just respond to my question?
Well, the call should be on the judge's records too.
Well, I understand.
And
but
she's made statements about what occurred during those conversations.
I understand that.
All right. Now, is this cop just thick? I mean, obviously he must understand that there's not only Facebook Messenger, there's WhatsApp, there's Signal, there's all the encrypted apps where you can communicate, Viber, uh, Instagram, all the private and DMs available that are not going to show up on phone calls. This was kind of driving me nuts that this cop was acting like he wasn't aware that that was a thing, and Astro from Space had made the same comment that I did the first time I watched this. I'm like, how did they not grab the daughter's phone? They have to do an extraction of her phone. Like, I'm not overly concerned with her deleting anything, because with Cellubrite, you're going to be able to recover a vast majority of it, if not all of it. But still, like, from the perspective of kind of a tunnel vision thing going on here, whereas they've just decided, all right, murder, that's it. We're not going to investigate any further. They're going to have to dig on this one. Now, I'm seeing some comments. I don't know if they're substantiated or not, but it sounds like I've seen things about that the wife had filed some kind of temporary restraining order or whatever they call it in Kentucky, and that she was leaving him. I don't know if that's true or not. Seems like that would be something that maybe Tracy could dig around in the docket and see whether or not there has been a filing, a petition, because obviously that has to be done by way of a petition, and then she has to get in front of a judge and she has to make allegations. And here in Illinois, you can do it without the other party being present, which they call ex parte. I don't know if that's the same as it is in Kentucky. And in terms of talking about getting a order of protection, an OP, you can go in without serving the other party, because the concept being, well, I'm trying to get away from this person. I don't want to necessarily let them know I'm going into court to try to get an order to keep them away from me. So they allow them to come in ex parte, give testimony, and then the judge makes a preliminary finding. And if he finds that it rises to the level of an order of protection should be issued, they order a temporary order of protection. And that's how it goes here in Illinois. You then get a date for what they call a plenary, which is a permanent one, which is a 2-year in Illinois, at which time you go and you have to have a full hearing. So during that interim of time, after an order of protection has been filed and the judge has heard the witness, and if the judge has found that, look, yeah, I need to protect you, I'm going to issue this. At that point, you bring a copy of it to the sheriff. The sheriff then turns around and hunts whoever the respondent is, so whoever you filed it against, and they serve them with that. You then hit the system. So you're on all the, you're going to be on all the cops' radars. If they pull you up, if they've got your, they're following you and they pull your plate up, they're going to show that you have an active order of protection against you. So you're very much on the grid at that point. But I'm curious to see if that's true. Some of the things, like reading that in the chat really kind of gets my mind racing a little bit. So I'm curious if that's true, if there has been something filed by his wife, because that might explain the mindset. And if this is the judge who's granting orders, that might explain things as well.
Yeah, but I would presume that, have you ascertained whether Judge Mullins also had apps that stand outside all phone records?
I've not received those records yet. I don't know what's on the
Well,
phone.
fair enough, but I mean, did you look at the phone? Did it appear there were apps on it?
I'm not the person that's qualified to look through the phone.
Okay, but you're familiar with cell phones. They can host other forms of communication. Yes, sir.
What's the objection?
He's asked a question about 4 or 5 different ways. The officers, the detective repeatedly said he does not have a report with phones. He's not looked at the phone. He can't testify that matter.
I'll let him ask the question and what he can only testify what he has personal knowledge about.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right.
So you're aware that phones can be used for apps such as Facebook.
Yes,
Okay. And that is not something that is captured by cell phone records. You would agree with me?
I agree.
So in light of that, although the records may be,
It's a great question, Sapper Cop. Sapper had asked, why couldn't the defense show the rest of the video? The state introduced it because this is what we call a preliminary hearing, what apparently they call a probable cause hearing in Kentucky. It's the state's burden. The state's the one putting evidence on at this point. I don't know what the rule is there, but here in Illinois, we're not putting on evidence in a preliminary hearing. I mean, we obviously have the opportunity to cross-examine, but it's entirely the state's burden to establish probable cause, and that's all this hearing is for. Like, so when we get to trial, obviously that's a much different circumstance. This is not trial. It's a far, far cry from trial. This is as bare bones as you can get. This is just, do they have the probable cause in order to bound him over for trial? That's what they're doing here. So at that point, the defense isn't going to have the opportunity. What should have happened, Sapper, is that the defense attorney should have objected to the shortened version of the video and demanded that the entire video be shown so as to give the judge context. We now hear through testimony that Stines was sitting, he was seated. And, there was obviously a conversation that was taking place prior to, and at some point, he's not sitting anymore. He's grabbing phones, he's making phone calls. Something's going on here. So, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. This wasn't the time. The way that he would have gotten it played was by objecting to the shortened version, which would have forced his hand. It would have forced the state's hand because he would have made the argument, the same argument that, look, Your Honor, they're charging him with murder. We think that it should be manslaughter. In order to show that, we have to show what preceded the 15 seconds that they're showing, which is essentially just the shooting. So that was a mistake by the defense.
mutually the same, right? The same between Judge Mullins' phone and the sheriff's daughter. Do you believe that you could also ascertain other information from the cell phone app content?
Are you asking what apps are on the phone?
Yes. Well, that was my original question.
I don't know
thought
I've not received that report yet. I don't know what apps he had downloaded on the phone.
if he has social media apps, do you intend to?
That could lead to additional search warrants, yes.
If you would, officer, please let me finish before you move forward, and I'll try to slow down a little bit as well, okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Trooper. Have you determined whether there were any previous issues, personal or professional, between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins?
I've heard things.
What have you heard?
Just that of this regarding the lawsuit that the Lechter County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
The lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And the subject matter of that lawsuit, the chambers area, that's the same chambers in which this occurred. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the details of that case that the lawsuit resulted from.
Okay. Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Stines had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
All right. Now that, like when I watched this the first time, and I'm going to rewind it just so you can hear it. I'm going to rewind it about 15 seconds so you can hear this line of questioning. This is the questions, the type of questions that really get your mind racing, right? He's assuming that, or he's insinuating that there may have been a complaint that was filed against the judge by Stines at some point in the recent past. And we're also going to talk about, this is the first time that I hear about this lawsuit that was filed that I was digging around for. Apparently, that's what Melanie found. I think we found it after the fact, but I want to hear this again.
That lawsuit for that involved,
This current, just that this regarding the lawsuit that the Lechter County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
the lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, and the subject matter of that lawsuit, the chambers area, that's the same chambers in which this occurred. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the details of that case that the lawsuit resulted from.
Okay. Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Stines had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
Did you personally observe Sheriff Stines following this video?
Did I personally observe him? What?
Did you meet with him? Did you talk to him after?
He was in custody when I arrived at the courthouse that afternoon.
And at some point, did you draw any observation about his demeanor?
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened. But he was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all he said was, "Treat me fair." That's basically the comments he made.
Okay. Did he also make a statement about, I didn't see it in the citation here, somewhere along the line I saw a statement being attributed to him about protecting his family?
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, "They're trying to kidnap my wife and kid."
Now, have you ascertained any evidence that this shooting was pre-planned?
No, not at this time.
And would you agree that from what we've seen so far, from the evidence you've seen so far, the shooting was a reaction to what was on that cell phone in that moment? Is that accurate?
Objection, Your Honor. Also speculation outside of his scope of expertise.
Your Honor, I believe that if he has formed an opinion about the investigation up to this point, especially at a preliminary hearing, he can speculate on that.
Or sustain.
Sure. So, is there anything other than the content of the phone that this video will reveal to us about why this took place?
No.
Does it appear that this took place as a reaction to what was happening in the chambers at that point?
I can say it occurred after a phone call was made. I don't know what was said or nothing like that. But
Fair enough, and I'm not asking you the content of any of that, but at this point, is it your theory that whatever that content was in the discussion was the impetus of the shooting?
it could be, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay. Do you have any evidence up until this point that you have developed that would demonstrate that it was not as a reaction to what was on the phone?
No.
None whatsoever.
No.
Okay. Just if I had just one moment to confer with.
I want to hear that question again.
Well, that,
Whatever that content was in his, of any of that. But at this point, is it your theory that whatever that content was in the discussion was the impetus of the shooting?
that could be, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay. Do you have any evidence up until this point that you have developed that would demonstrate that it was not, as a reaction to what was on the phone?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
Okay. Just if I had just one more.
I mean, we're 10 days out from this shooting. It happened on the 19th of September. Like, why doesn't this guy know shit? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, when a cop gets on the stand like this, and it's weird because you've got a fellow law officer here, you know, who's standing trial for this thing. You know, I mean, obviously there's politics involved. You know, anytime you've got elected officials such as sheriffs or judges in many counties, you know, judges are either appointed or they're elected to the bench. You know, obviously he could be concerned about it being a really bad look for him if he is up on the stand saying anything that might support the proposition that, you know, in this guy's mind, there might have been some justification for what he did. You know, but I'm just a little bit shocked that he got up here so clueless about anything. Like, or he's just flat out lying. You know, I mean, that's one thing that I would be digging into if I was this guy's lawyer as we head towards trial. I'd be looking, and again, it's another one of the reasons why I always go to preliminary hearing. I never waive it. You can waive it, and it's really your client's choice, but your client's always going to take your advice as to whether or not you should waive. I would say, no, we don't waive. We take the opportunity to cross-examine this cop. You know, and if I find out down the road that he accessed the phone prior to this hearing and yet got on the stand and said he didn't know shit, he's got a problem. You know, I mean, it's like clearly something happened because it went from him sitting in a chair, which we don't see, to him standing up and shooting the judge 4 times. It looks like something went down. You know, something got to the point where this judge is unlocking his phone for some cop and allowing this cop to call his daughter on his phone. Like, so something's going on, you know, and it's a little bit weird to me that in the days that have passed that they didn't really kind of dig into what happened here. Again, you don't have to prove motive. There's no question about it. Motive is not something that ever needs to be proven in a court of law in order to secure a conviction. It doesn't exist. However, motive goes a long way to explaining things. Motive in a case like this is going to be everything, especially if they're going to be trying to make a move for manslaughter, you know, that he's hearing things. Now, things change. And again, I'm hearing things and seeing things just in the chat already about things that may have been filed by the wife wherein she's leaving him, like all that. Like, I don't even want to get into it until I see it substantiated. So like, and you know, like I've got Tracy and I've got Dizzy who dig in dockets, and if there is any kind of restraining order or petition that's been filed by the wife, I have zero doubts that Tracy's going to pull it up for me. But you know, at this point, because that changes things, doesn't it? I mean, if it turns out that wife is filing for you know, either a temporary restraining order or protective order, whatever the case may be, and this is the judge granting it, you know, that creates a real problem, in the sense that, look, you know, this guy may construe this guy because we're going to hear the statement that comes out in a little bit that he makes about, and I don't want to spoil it if you guys haven't seen it. So we'll talk about it after it comes. But if that's the case, if the wife is in fact in the process of leaving him and he views this judge as the person that's allowing it to happen, that's a problem. that's a problem for him.
Will concur with this. Did you attempt to speak to Sheriff Stines at the Lechter County Jail after the incident?
No,
Did anyone from your agency attempt to interview him?
not to my knowledge, no.
And at that point, had he asserted his right to an attorney or anything?
No.
But no. Nobody went back to try to talk to him or do an interview?
No.
Okay. I think I have one other question. In addition to cell phones that we discussed, the cell phone of Sheriff Stines and the cell phone that you found of Judge Mullins, were there additional phones that you were able to obtain?
There was one other phone that's currently being examined, and the basic reason it was seized was there was a text conversation between Sheriff Stines and some of his employees with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and that was an additional phone of Sheriff Stines.
It was a phone of, I guess she's the, I don't know what her title is, but she's employed. She's not sworn. She's employed by the Lechter County Sheriff's Office. And she voluntarily gave her phone to the person that interviewed her.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, what could you explain why that was relevant or germane to your investigation?
I didn't conduct that interview, but it was, I guess it was regarding the dinner at Streetside and things that led up to the shooting. But I don't have those results either, so I don't know exactly what was said.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought when we discussed that earlier that you indicated there was no evidence that the conversations at the lunch.
I haven't seen those conversations yet. I've not received the downloads from the phone.
Right, but I asked you if you're aware of any information that could have been gleaned from witnesses at that meeting, and as I recall, you said no, but there is some information that something was discussed at this lunch. Is that correct?
I don't know what was discussed at lunch.
I understand, but you obtained this lady that we don't know her name. You obtained her phone in an effort, or based on a belief that she would be able to demonstrate what was said at lunch. So you would agree with me. You believe that there is a witness or information that may have popped up at lunch.
There's a recorded interview with her in the case, and I'm yet to receive the downloads of the phone, so I don't know what they contain.
Okay. Has that phone been sent to the
It is.
forensic examination as well?
Yes.
All right, so I had another one of my classic and all too frequent muted rants. I'm going to repeat it because it bears repeating. What I was saying is that it shocks me that they didn't try to have an interview with the cop. He's sitting there without a lawyer. He hasn't asked for a lawyer, and the fact that they didn't go in and try to get a statement from him to find out what in the hell just happened, why did you do this, to get something on the record is insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me. I don't know why, when he hasn't lawyered up, he's sitting in the police station, that not one cop took it upon himself to go back, or herself to go back in that room and talk to him. How do you not talk to this guy? I guarantee you the prosecutor wants a statement from him. Now, at this point, it ain't happening. Now he's got a lawyer. His lawyer is the first line of defense. They're never going to talk to this guy again. They had the opportunity. He was sitting in there. They could have gotten answers, which makes me think, and this is the part of the rant that I really wanted to get into, that they're in some kind of massive spin mode here. That there potentially are there dark secrets that they don't want exposed. Is that like whatever's going on here is fascinating. Like it can't be what it seems. These cops can't all be that just completely incompetent. To have a defendant who's just gunned down a sitting judge in his chamber, and they don't go and talk to him to find out why. It's one thing if the guy says, I lawyered up. Fine, you're lawyered up. We can't say shit to you. For them not to go in there and talk to him is beyond bizarre. I can't understand why that did not happen. It makes me think something is being hidden. And I don't know if it has something to do with the judge. I don't know if it has something to do with the cop. I don't know what it is. I agree. And them not taking the daughter's phone, bizarre. I think that that's going to change in very short order. That was one of the advantages, another advantage to a preliminary hearing, because the defense attorney put him right on that. He's like, you didn't take the phone, dude? He's like, well, he said the record, the records, we'll get the records will show do what? Do what? Well, we'll get the, no, man, like the phone records will show the telephone calls and the text messages, won't show jack shit about any other kind of messaging devices or apps that they're using on there. I mean, you need to get into WhatsApp, you need to get into Signal, you need to get into Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, all the different DMs that exist that are never going to show up on a phone bill or anything. What they can do, whether they get the phone or not, is they're going to be able to subpoena everything. So they'll subpoena Facebook, they'll subpoena Instagram, which is the same company. They'll, Snapchat, all of them. I'd be surprised if that judge was snapping, but look, something weird is going on here. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm all in on this case because they got me hook, line, and sinker. Like I almost drove down to Kentucky, started knocking on doors, asking questions. I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy. And I want to go to the courthouse. I would have just gone to the clerk's office today and find out, I would have looked for all the filings. I would have first checked exactly what other people are saying. Like, has the wife filed something, or is there a petition for dissolution filed? Is there a petition for an order of protection filed? What is going on? Like something is happening here. What is the backstory? Like fill us in. And no one's sniffing it out. None of the legacy media has sniffed it out. Once again, I have a feeling it's going to be the people in the YouTubes and the podcasts that are going to be coming with the real dope, the straight dope. all the real news, So it's like that's just how we roll out here in the interwebs. So, but I'm all in on this case. It's fascinating to me and tragic, obviously.
Thank you. Also, that's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect. Questions? Has Judge Mullins, he sent to medical examiner's office, autopsy?
He was.
Have you received that report yet?
No.
Have you had an informal conversation with him regarding his cause of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Multiple gunshot wounds.
The video we showed earlier, that a true and accurate clip copy of what you received?
Yes.
Councilman introduce Councilman Exhibit number 1, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I'd ask, of course, all we saw today was the clip, but I asked it be admitted in its entirety, Your Honor.
You want to respond to that?
Good job. I don't think preliminary hearings required for probable cause. This statute of probable cause, I think the entire clip is outside the purview of the these proceedings today.
Yeah, I think if you want to see the whole video, you should have objected earlier. I'll admit the short clip. Yeah, I have the clerk enter that as exhibit number 1.
And Detective, this is an ongoing investigation.
Yes, it is.
And as this ongoing investigation proceeds, you will be also interviewing more people if necessary, submitting more evidence to the lab.
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Recross. All right. Any other witnesses for the Commonwealth?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You may sit down. Any witnesses for the defendant? I'll find probable cause and bind this case over the grand jury.
Ho, ho, ho.
Anything else?
ho.
Anything else before we adjourn court?
There's no, we're not allowed to sum up, Judge, what.
Oh, if you want to make an argument, sure.
I love this part. I love this part. The defense attorney's like, whoa, I don't get to make any kind of argument. Judge is just like, right, probable cause. Like I said, it's a very low standard for the state to meet. But, the defense attorney wants to be able to get his record. I'm always talking about that. The reason that you hear objections, the reason that lawyers want to get things heard by the judge and they want to make their arguments is for the appellate record, because down the road, that is all the appellate courts have to know what happened in the lower courts. It's the appellate record. They have nothing else. They don't look at the evidence. They don't look at any, they're not digging into the case. All they have is the trial record, which is everything that was said in every court date from the date of arrest all the way through trial. That is the appellate record. That is all that an appellate court has. So that's why when you hear things that probably get on your nerves, things that probably irritate you, like tons of objections. I've said this a million times when we watch trials together. They have to do that. They have to do that they have to object in order to crystallize that issue for appeal. Because if you don't object for certain things, it's waived for the purposes of appeal. Like you can't bring it up. Remember, a direct appeal is the first thing that you do after you file your motion to reconsider or motion for a new trial. Once that gets rejected, at that point, you file your notice of appeal within 30 days of that last judgment. And then from that point forward, you've got to start picking and choosing your issues. You ask the court reporter, I say, hey, we're going to need a transcript of the trial and all the pretrial hearings. And then as the attorneys start digging through, they're trying to find issues. If you had rulings that you felt that were adverse on motions, pretrial motions, you're certainly going to cite those as issues that the trial judge screwed up on. And, they allowed, because of the screw up on that motion, they've now allowed that evidence in that trial, and that evidence shouldn't have been admissible, or it should have been admissible and it wasn't admissible. Either way, and those issues that take place, that's why you're always hearing like lawyers wanting to get things on the record. And I realize it can really like in terms of the flow of a trial, if you've got like some heavy duty shit going on and you're like, oh, the last thing you want to hear is some windbag lawyer sitting there, making objections. And that's why a lot of judges say, I don't want speaking objections. You can object, state your grounds for the objection, and that's it. I don't want you talking, because otherwise it would be like me. It would be like, it'd be like watching me on a rant. like every time that I objected. So that would get old. So it's interesting, but I thought this part was funny. Judge is like, you can give it a shot. You can give it a shot. You can give it a shot to change my mind.
Recross. All right. Any other witnesses for the Commonwealth?
No,
All right. You may sit down. Any witnesses for the defendant? I'll find probable cause and bind this case over the grand jury. Anything else? Anything else before we adjourn court?
There's no, we're not allowed to sum up, Judge, what.
Oh, if you want to make an argument, sure.
It seems like I may change your mind, Judge.
It is a probable cause hearing, so, but yes,
I understand.
take your best shot.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, so, murder under our statute, as the court knows, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but if there is an issue as to extreme emotional disturbance, then there has to be some evidence that would rebut that. And specifically, when I asked the witness today if there was any evidence to rebut that this occurred as a direct result in the moment of this observation, they have none at this point. And I get it's just probable cause, but I think they've established probable cause for manslaughter first, but not murder. Because I've heard nothing that indicates that this is not, an example of an extreme emotional disturbance relative to the phone. At any rate, Judge, respectfully, I understand the court's previous ruling, but I did want to address that with you.
No, that's fine. Let
Thank
the
you, Your Honor.
Commonwealth respond.
Thank you, Your Honor. Extreme emotional disturbance is a defense. There's not been a defense presented here to this court today. The evidence presented to this court today is that the judge was intentionally shot and killed, shot multiple times by the sheriff, and there's probable cause to bind the grand jury murder charge.
Yeah, I agree. There's probable cause to proceed as murder.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn court today?
Your Honor,
Actually, that's his daughter right there behind him. That's his daughter, and his wife is next to him, which makes me wonder about like the veracity of this concept that she had filed some kind of order of protection against him. I mean, the daughter looks like she's all in, I mean, if dad is protecting daughter, I'm sure she's going to be supporting her father pretty heavily. So, I mean,
Sheriff, and there's probable cause to bind the grand jury murder charge.
Yeah, I agree. There's probable cause to proceed as murder.
yes, sir.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn court today?
Your Honor,
they were right at him. The wife and the daughter, you couldn't see the wife because she was behind his head, but the daughter was right there behind him in that last shot I just showed. Like this-
And the judge
That's
was
daughter right there,
intentionally
the
shot and
attractive-
killed, shot multiple times
Brunette.
by the sheriff, and there's probable cause to bind the grand
That's
jury
his
murder
wife.
charge.
Yeah, I agree. There's probable
The
cause to
maroon
proceed.
top.
yes, sir.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn court today?
That
Your
I verified that myself from Facebook. I mean, like they haven't taken their socials down, so I mean, it's all right there for you. All right, so that's
In
gonna
terms
wrap
of,
this.
we'd like to discuss, if we could, lodging from here and where he's transported. Is it the court's intention to have him take, and I don't want to discuss that potentially publicly, Your Honor.
I'm not sure I can make that help you on that.
Yes, Your Honor. So,
I mean, we could. You're welcome to stay after court and discuss that. But I'm not sure I can tell the.
yes, Your Honor. So the transport order that was entered that will direct Sheriff Stines to go back to where he came from, Judge. Is that
Let's
fair?
let's adjourn court and we'll talk about that.
Yes, sir.
I don't know that I can change where he's going to be at.
I understand. Yes, sir.
We can discuss. All right.
Thanks,
All
sir.
right. Court's adjourned.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I was trying to see. See, there's his wife and his daughter. They look pretty supportive to me. But that's just me. All right. Well, I'm all in on this case. That's that. I mean, it's got a long way to go. It just started. Not that Nikki, like, there's nothing, you're not going to find anything on a deep dive because the case just happened. It's pretty simple. That guy is the elective sheriff. And I think it's Lechter County. I think it's Lechther. He's the elected sheriff. He went in to this Kevin Mullins, the judge, sitting judge in that same county, into his chambers and shot him 4 times, killing him. And that's it. That's all we know, really. And then what came out in this hearing is all that we've heard. We've heard that something took place wherein he's calling his daughter. We don't know which daughter. I'm just telling you, I was on his Facebook page. He's got 2 teenage daughters. He's got the one that we saw in court. And then there's a daughter, I think is a little bit younger than her, who is also a teenager who was not in court. I mean, I'm assuming she was maybe in school. So I don't know. But that he called his daughter multiple times called his daughter from chambers, then picks up the judge's phone and calls his daughter from the judge's phone. After that, pulls out his gun and shoots him. I mean, that's what we know right now. That's what we like at this point. That's it. All right. So I'm going to pull that down. So fascinating. It's fascinating stuff. I'll go old school. I'm definitely going to be following this case pretty heavily. So I'm going to have all my research champions doing their work. Marissa, thank you so much for that $10 holla. Also, all in on this case for the Kentucky Fund. Good on you, Couch. $2 holla. Love you all. Love you back, Couch. Appreciate you, Missy. OG, 11 months, all in. Love you, Missy. Thank you so much for everything you do. Dawn, like you were above and beyond today. And Dawn, I just want you to know that I'm not purposefully muting and talking so that you'll send supers. I promise I'm not. Allie called me and I'm like, what? Like, I've got 800 people on the live. Why are you calling me? I had it muted and I forget. I see that it's a different color, but I just forget. Like there should be something that pops up. Oh, see, like Dizzy and our new thing was she was going to play a sound effect that would alert me because you guys assume that I'm looking at the text or the chat and sometimes I'm just not. All right. So that's it. I did get that document from Melanie. Melanie Little was nice enough to send me that complaint. I'm going to digest it probably tonight and probably go live and talk about that complaint. And we're talking about the complaint against deputy sheriffs in that sheriff department's employ that were apparently having inappropriate sexual relations with people that were in custody, including people that were back in chambers in Judge Mullins' chamber. So there's an active suit going on. I think it's a federal suit. I'm going to read that tonight. If it's interesting, I'm going to put that forward. There was also another interesting thing that Tracy pulled from Seeking Justice, which again, in terms of discords, that's the spot. Like that's like if you're looking for just the docket on every case that's going that's of note, it's in there. It'll tell you the next court dates. It'll also have all the filings that they've been able to procure, which is massive amount of work that they put in there. Seeking Justice on Discord. That's Tracy and Dizzy's baby, and they just do an amazing job. I'm so lucky to have them with me. I can't even. So I thought it was interesting. Am I missing anything from any of y'all? Did I miss any questions? Any questions that any of you guys saw? If not, mods, I adore you. Thank you so much for being here. We had a great crowd in here. I hope that you will, if you're new to the channel, if this is your first first journey in. I hope that you'll think about subscribing. It's free. We put out a lot of good content. We try to give you a lot of good information. Usually my better half's with me. She's running around doing things. It is Lashana Tova for our Jewish friends out there. It is the Jewish New Year today. So she is busy making matzo ball soup, which we all look forward to. I'm Italian, Irish, and Scottish, and Cherokee, and I love me some matzo ball soup. So, I mean, who doesn't love matzo ball? It's like a dumpling. It's better. It's like denser. They're delicious. But mods, you're amazing. Thank you so much for hanging with me. You guys are amazing. Please remember to share, like, subscribe. If you're on replay crew, make sure you chat. Send some comments in there. That all gets the thing churning, gets it out to the world, gets us in the algorithm, helps the show grow. There's so many things that if you really like the show that you can do that are not going to cost you a dime, but they go a long way into building the show. And again, it's just sharing, liking, subscribing, those three. And if you really love the show and you really want to support us, either join our Patreon or become a member. We adore those folks so much because they really do keep the show afloat. So you guys are amazing. Keep your eyes peeled. Tonight, before I forget, I have already portaled all of y'all that are still here. I'm going to do it quick because we're losing folks. I am portaling y'all to Steve. I'm hanging with Steve at Publicly Buzz tonight. He's my boy. We're going to talk Sarah Boone. We're going to see what we can see about the wackadoodle that is known as Sarah Boone. We're going to dig in, talk about her. And then at 8:00 tonight, I'll be joining Vinnie Politan on Court TV. Little Delphi action, me and Barb McDonald. I think I'm in the first half, and then they're bringing in Gray Hughes. So it's like you got the two opposite sides of the coin on Vinny tonight. So I'm the first half tonight at 8 Central, 9 Eastern on Vinny. And I think it's VPI Vinny Politan Investigates. But check that out. It'll be good. I'll also make sure to throw that out on the Twitter machine. I love you guys. You guys are the best because without you, I'm just an old man talking about a whole bunch of cases. Thanks for the $5 holla, DCN, DSN.